Hello again. I'm going to continue through our case with this theme of the creation of narrative to present a reality that you want to achieve an objective. Now, we see this a lot. I've spoken about it prolifically. Rachel Reeves, I'm going further and faster for growth and going further and faster for growth. 20 odd billion pound deficits, whereas everybody knows the only deficit that really matters is the national debt, which is huge. The Dawn Sturgis inquiry, wanting to create a narrative that Russian agents tried to assassinate Sergei Skripal and possibly his daughter, though that bit never makes sense, by a deadly nerve agent. And in terms of my own situation with suffering police state terror, as I've uncovered these unpleasant aspects of the financial system with the FCA and wealth tech. Also covered the FCA and Woodford, and this disgraceful trade in children, emotional sterilisation, packaging them up into long-term cash generative assets to trade with private equity, and how that destroys families rather than tries to put them together, and how, as a pretext to raid my property, we had this subject myself and my wife to police state terror. We had this absurd allegation that I spray painted a car of Rachel Hudson with no evidence to support it. Of course, only fake narrative. Questioned in the police interview that responded poorly to an email received from the family court 2 months after the last incident of vandalism. So I needed a time machine to do it, and so on and so forth. So where this is important is in these cases, Rachel Hudson in this particular instance charged the social worker Donna Grant to conduct a parental review, and I've covered this in the previous video, and I just tail end it now. What these processes do, because it's a reverse engineered situation. They want the children, they size them, they price them up. How many years cash flow can we get out of these children? And if it makes it viable for the trade, you say we're going for a long-term care order straight away, and you reverse engineer the complete conclusion, which is exactly what's happened in our case, which is why we recorded everything throughout, even the case management hearings and the final hearing as well, audio in the final hearing, audio and visual on the others, and also the conclusive hearing afterwards, and we will be sharing those in edited form. There'll be some redactions, and we're doing that because what's happened essentially is it's fronted up as being behind closed doors, no juries, and such to protect the children, which is of course a noble objective, but it's being used to mask a highly corrupt industry, which we're going to expose, and we have started to expose. And only by using this material along with other material produced by the local authority and social workers can we make this point and show that this, behind closed doors, there's no juries to make life-changing decisions for families, is being grossly abused. So that's why we're doing it. So the whole thing, in essence, you've got a judge that's working very closely with the local authority throughout to achieve this long-term care order objective, to package the children up as assets. That's, as we've dug into the police state terror that I suffered along with my wife, we now know that it was coordinated action between South Tyneside Council and Rachel Hudson together. They fronted it with Rachel Hudson because she hadn't been called out previously in terms of this coordinated coercion, but we knew she was watching the YouTube videos on the other channel, and she stepped forward. The big mistake the police made in that interview was to reference a YouTube video where she hadn't actually been named. So I got them all lined up now. We have them all lined up, the FCA, Rachel Hudson and South Tyneside Council. Actually, the research we're going to publish will actually also include other family court officials and other local authorities, but we'll do that in time. So essentially, the local authority, with the blessing of the judge, can manufacture its own narrative and evidence, and the parental assessment is exactly how that's a key tenet of it. I showed you in the first part, in the previous video, it was abysmal in terms of the standard of it, and I'll publish Donna Grant's work in full in time, and you'll see and judge for that for yourself. There is some editing because her writing that we'll show you in other exhibits is extremely poor. They've tried to tidy it up in some other documents. In the first, she tried to come at it and say that Magda, my wife, myself were essentially coordinating our responses, which was nonsense, because the first stage of this parental assessment, they were conducted separately, were about our early lives, and one of us grew up in England, the other grew up in Poland. So it just showed the venomous, but in a very, very spiteful and unprofessional way, what she was trying to do, with full blessing of her legal team, as we dug further into how they work as an organization. As it kind of went through, there were other absurd aspects to it. What they were trying to do is pursue this sort of, initially try to say that we weren't offering older daughter food, and we were body shaming her and all this sort of nonsense. And it didn't really stick, because within a few weeks of passing into their care, they'd been assessed by a medical professional that said their weights were perfect. Actually, the initial Dr. Atoma, who sadly passed shortly after, was a lovely lady, and my wife spoke to her, and I heard the conversation. We recorded it, and she herself said, "I don't understand why in these processes they don't try to put families together." She was from, I guess, what we would say now, an ethnic minority. Now, if you look at Britain in terms of what we regard as minority religions and ethnic minorities, I would say they're far better at understanding the importance of the family and the loyalty of a family as a building block for society than the degeneracy of the wider UK society, which has led to so many social problems. And when we tried to contact her after Grant's allegations, there was one absurd one when my wife had made in one of her family assessments with Grant, referenced a female clothing size with Florence, and she tried to badge that up as judgmental. It was so poor. We defended it, and eventually she massaged it out of her final documents, because I think even the legal team told her that was, well, they did tell her that was ridiculous. In terms of one of my interviews, because she moved to wanting to do them working from home, surprise, surprise. And one of them, and I recorded it, and she said, "Oh, there's a builder working on my property, but it's in a different part of the property." And the builder's face actually came into the screen during the video. So there was a very, very serious data protection breach there. I raised it. Of course, it was dismissed. Grant threatened that we wouldn't cooperate, and so on and so forth. But I really do look forward to sharing that in due course. And it's also worth remembering that at this time, I started to see the scam that this is, and I wanted to work as a litigant in person, because the solicitor that was representing me, Kate Westgarth, was so poor. Effectively, I was writing all the statements. Her analytical capability was pretty much minus, never mind zero. And I could see the scam, the reverse engineered situation, and it actually shined well in the first hearing we had with a judge that wasn't Hudson in December. And the merry-go-round of barristers that you have, my wife's barrister on that particular occasion said to her, "Social workers are awful. They are awful." And she repeated that to me. And as we went on, I started to see that. Actually, the situation is it's a Russian doll situation. They select them very, very carefully in terms of the qualities they're looking for them. So in terms of, in our case, skeleton who was set up rather foolishly to blackmail us into writing, into signing a letter that we couldn't. My wife couldn't speak Polish to our daughter, having not seen her for 3 weeks, and somehow not think that was racist. That came out of their legal department. So it's a Russian doll situation where they send the social workers out to do the nasty stuff, and the legal teams try to have that deniability between them. You'll see that very, very much in the rape gangs situation, because where most of the rape gangs situation happen is what in the looked after area. So how it works, you've got your initial social worker who tries to get that that initial care order, the grant type figure who tries to do all the nasty stuff to take it to the long-term care order. Then you have the looked after bit, which is really just a night watchman, just effectively collecting cash flow just to watch over. The looked after bit is often a bit of an insult to those people, certainly in the rate gang situation, because it's almost like in finance, you would call it post-trade. Trade has been done. Someone's just collecting money just for looking over without actually really doing anything or showing any interest to reunite them to the family, because a trade has happened. The child is bolted in to long-term cash flows. There's no interest to reunite to reunite the family. The deal is done. The deal that is always meant to happen is done. So there are a few other funny situations upon this. So the parental review, there were some funny situations with this. It was a bit delayed, and what happened as well is, and I'm looking forward to if they escalate this, because this will be really, really interesting. We did a lot of analysis over this. Is the parental review is slightly delayed. So I think Grant's work was such poor and venomous that even the local authority solicitors had to rein it in a bit. And that's a complaint we've had from others as well, which will come forward in time. What actually happened is we were supposed to see a statement from the foster carer as well, and they were hanging back on both. And Paul Mahan, the local authority solicitor, had issued, because I was acting again as a litigant person, so he had to start emailing me as well. So he promised twice to deliver this foster carer statement, and he missed both deadlines. And effectively, what was happening is they were trying to dovetail what the foster carer was saying with what Grant was saying in the parental assessment. It's the creation of narrative for this reality situation. And I actually put it in one of my statements in the case management hearings, and said Paul Mahan said this, Paul Mahan said that, but didn't. And it was clear that they were pushing them both in. And after that point, he refused to email. Actually, what had happened is his manager had actually told him, because we've seen this and we were advised by it. His manager said, do not email him again, because he's running riot here. He knows what we're doing. Effectively, that's what had happened. So everything then was paper-based to me. And the other thing you must appreciate is when you go litigant in person, you're put at a disadvantage. Firstly, the judge and the others are furious because it's taking out two other mouths to feed, because you've got a legal aid budget that can feed revolving barristers and a solicitor. So that's gone. But you cannot access that legal aid budget to commission, say, evidence from medical professionals and things like that. It's completely shut off for you. Now, I know obviously you shouldn't be able to spend it on whatever you want, but they should be able to allocate it to legitimate purposes. You can't. It's about legal professionals gorging on it. The other thing is you're not allowed digital access to the bundle. This is done on purpose, and it's done to put you behind the others. So it's to punish you for taking this action. It's a form of corruption, effectively. So effectively they moved everything paper-based. So they tried to make sure I was behind all the time, and I was. But unfortunately for them, I did have access to all the bundle, and the bundle selectively will be published, as will the relevant sections from the case management hearing and the final hearing and follow-up hearings. So Judge Hudson, I'm afraid, we will only show her. We're not doing it maliciously. We're going to show her to support the allegations that we believe she acted abused her position, and this matches up with other cases, and it matches up with cases of other court officials. It's not just picking on her, but she's a particularly strong example. And we're going to focus on this cultural heritage, destruction of cultural heritage of my younger daughter, to package her up as a long-term cash generative asset to be traded with private equity-owned agency. At this point, the judge, even Hudson, was getting a bit frustrated about they didn't have any evidence. And they didn't. Effectively, the final statement, which she accepted, their ABE, as I've said, and we'll work towards this, unsigned, the key witness claims recorded not to have ever seen it in a meeting that she initiated in a public place, so under no duress, was effectively an unsigned statement that the key witness never saw. That goes to show there never was any investigation. It was just pure narrative, fantasy narrative, creation to achieve an objective signed off by a judge whose time served in this ecosystem. In many ways, this is why people should be very, very, very concerned about the removal of jury trials, because this is what will happen. It's the same if you look at Starmer's career. I'm not saying he's done anything like this, but he made most of his money as a human rights lawyer. No juries, judges that he will know that have followed a similar career path, where he knows what he has to give them to get it signed off. And it's like a merry-go-round like that. This is even more sinister than that. This is awful. So they effectively had no evidence. They declined the police interview situation. And actually what had happened is older daughter has started writing notes. They said, oh, just write some notes. She wanted to make some private notes. And the foster carer who older daughter subsequently left, described as being overbearing and money obsessed, her words, not mine, and recorded, had been sort of turning over a room, and she'd come across these notes that were private and presented them to the local authorities straight on the phone. And the police, Northumbria police, had suggested to Paul Mahan that the fact that she'd gone and interrogated and found these notes and presented them without permission of older daughter would be prejudice the evidence, effectively. So when I was asking for police to actually investigate it, which I still think they should have done because the thresholds would have been sufficiently high for us to be able to defend ourselves, they didn't even respond to me. And I've got evidence that I made 2 requests for them to do so. So there is a massive conflict of interest with them here. And it's very, very interesting when Adam Lloyd said to me, because I said to them, I want to make a complaint against Rachel Hudson for harassment because I didn't attack her car. And they know it. It's a pretext. They will drop it. I can guarantee you they will drop it. They are looking for evidence on my devices of this extensive research we've done into the FCA, Rachel Hudson, and other court officials and other local authorities, and most pertinently South Tyneside Council. They're searching for that, but that's actually all on other people's. It's actually all on offshore servers, effectively. It's too vast to have on my computer. There's a few residual items of recorded conversations, but they're all backed up. And if they're not there when my devices come back, it's going to be really, really bad for them. So it's all absurd in many ways. So in essence, he said there's a conflict of interest. We can't investigate Rachel Hudson because we're investigating you against her. But there already is a conflict of interest because you said you blocked my request and didn't even respond to me when I said please investigate these allegations against me, myself, and my wife. And you'd already told them you couldn't and advised them to go the family court route because it wouldn't meet your thresholds. So you are the conflict of interest. So you can see how this is completely going to fall apart, and it's going to be completely humiliating for them. So the lack of evidence, they then came up with the broken arm thing. They said, we should get an expert witness. and what they wanted to do is pay for a orthopedic or specialist to look at the break. And I said, well, yeah, that's not a bad idea, but don't just get a specialist. Go and get the people who were there, the 5 or 6 consultants that were involved, who never raised any concerns throughout the whole process and are trained to look for signs of abuse. They then thought about that and scampered back and thought, no, we can't do that. So they were then in the position, so they were relying on this fake parental review, which I will dissect probably on this channel, but it will be in the main disclosures. The main disclosures can't initially be on this channel, can't initially be on YouTube. And there's contractual reasons for that and so on. They will eventually come here because they're so vast that there's a team that had to look at it and put it together and edit it, and it just wouldn't be viable to put it out here on a free platform first. So there we are. We have a parental review, which is just inventing your own evidence. I want to leave you with some issues here where I'll tell you how vicious these people are, because you really need to know this, and you need to know why we're going to go through this process. One of them was, and this is how corrupt the system is. Shortly after this, our young daughter was in immense distress. You could see they were putting immense pressure on her. Any sign of emotional attachment to us, they were stamping down on and being vicious to. They were telling her parents were going to abduct her from school. Yes, they were telling her that. We know that, and we will publish that. They were telling her that if your parents showed you pictures, they were going to manipulate you. And she'd tragically started to develop nervous tics, which is really, it broke our hearts, as you can imagine. And we brought this up as a point of concern, and we said, or we wanted to, because dental care was also being neglected. So we arranged a day where we would attend a GP meeting with a trainee social worker, I'll come to very soon. And we go to the dentist and we go to the GP. And in essence, what they tried to do, I mean, the girl who attended the GP meeting with us, I didn't attend the dental meeting, was a girl called Madeline White, who actually recorded in a recorded meeting. They were using it. She was a student, and in a recorded meeting, she was effectively dropping in there as a contact worker, stroke trainee social worker. And we actually recorded her when she said, and nothing against her, but if they want the full fight, we'll bring everyone in. It's in their hands. But White effectively said that she was at university and she was desperate for a job in Donna Grant's team. So she was, desperate for a job in Donna Grant's team and was going out to monitor us. So that is how corrupt it is, and that is the girl's words. Nothing against her. She's been very naive and used, in my opinion, but that's her words, and they have been recorded and they will be used. So we were in this meeting. My wife had said a number of things to the GP. They twisted it here and said, Mrs. Stockdale has said that that the local authority had snatched and stolen their children. Actually, that's partly true, because in terms of our younger daughter, when we turned up to school, we were legally entitled to pick her up. It was Kim Simpson and the head of pastoral at the school who prevented us illegally from picking her up. So she was right in saying that. And they were trying to say, it was an inappropriate thing, and so on and so forth. But what we were saying is she was under immense pressure. She was chewing her nails. She was showing signs of nervous tics. Donna Grant and the foster care were putting her under immense pressure. And you could see that on her. She was desperately missing her parents. She'd been seen in school carrying a picture of me holding her as a child, crying. She'd been mentioning to people, knocking on her older sister's door saying, please help me to go home. So they would say, this is a girl who never asked to leave home. They tried to say things about physical chastisement, but there was no evidence she said that to anyone independently. Let's also remember that Donna Grant said early May that she told her, I wanted to stay with a foster carer. I published a video and gave it to the court. I'll also put it on here in due course. When I asked her in a family meeting whether she'd seen Donna Grant and said that, she said no. She's an extremely truthful child, so I believe her. And also, a couple of weeks after Grant claimed that she'd said she wanted to remain with a foster carer, the Guardian said she'd spoken to her. This was 6 months plus after she'd been taken. She wanted to go home. It was in that last week, and strangely enough, she changed her mind. So you imagine the immense pressure and abuse they put her under to try to falsify this expression. Grant produced this letter to the judge that we weren't allowed to see in the final hearing. It matches very, very high correlation to Grant's writing, to the term higher. Younger daughter was quite capable of writing. This was a letter to the judge. She's very capable of writing and signing herself. No signature, just strange crayon scribbles at the bottom, which you can't correlate with anything. It was appalling, absolutely appalling. So in terms of in here, I'm accusing the local authority of bigotry. Yes, I most certainly do. And we have an abundance of evidence to support that, including the last meeting we were at here with her. We weren't allowed the dignity of having a Christmas lunch with her. We had to have a breakfast because they're so inflexible at times. And also bear in mind, this Christmas, as in other Christmases, we won't even be allowed to say hello and happy Christmas to her on Christmas Day. And her mum, let alone say happy Christmas in Polish to her. That's been banned. You can't do that. Such is the inhumanity of this trade in children. And she said to us she's trying to learn Polish via Duolingo, but they won't support her in, because Duolingo is a freemium platform. You get a little bit free, then you have to trade up and subscribe. I've got recorded meetings with Deirdre Ryan, current social worker, explaining that to her. Do you understand what freemium means? Do you understand the support you have to give her to put her onto a structure? And that alone won't be enough. And she vacuously refuses to engage on that, and apparently tells us that she has no interest in Polish. Younger daughter was saying that nobody supported her at all, and she's stuck on the free part and can't get off it. So that is Deirdre Ryan, and we have an abundance of material to say that that you need to put something more structured in place. We have asked for extra sessions with her mother, supervised to be able to help her Polish. They can be there, some sort of structure. But they won't allow it. They say child doesn't want it. Child doesn't want it. The child told us in the last meeting she's trying. No one helps her. It looks horrendous for the local authority. This isn't a threat. We are sadly, not boasting, very sadly, abundantly confident we can show that they're racist and institutionally racist. It's going to be, and all this was known throughout the case to Rachel Hudson, that we were trying to preserve a Polish heritage. Why did they wait 3 weeks into allowing her to be able to see her parents and then ban the use of Polish and claim that they respected her heritage? Why won't they answer the question? Why did a child extremely enthusiastic about her Polish heritage, the moment she went into your care, lose interest? We all know why. It's obvious. Sadly, it is obvious. And all this is going to come out. And that's why we're going to have to show bits of the case, be the case management, the final hearing, and the follow-up hearings as well, because this is what it's going to take to change this corrupt system. This runs straight into the financial system. You know, and I return to Aristotle and the slavery issues. And here, bear with me. Here it is. Read the book, The Politics, Aristotle. Britain has form for this in terms of people being seen as mere commodities, and this great nation that abolished slavery and tried to lead the world away from it, but took out loans that we had to service for, right up until 2015, I think it was, from the 1830s, where loans were taken out to compensate the owners of slaves um, uh, for the loss of their human property. Not just liberating the slaves and saying, we actually need to compensate you because we've exploited you. They were compensated for doing that. And the taxpayer, the third estate, had to fund it. So is it any great leap that now we are taking children and pricing them up as human property, destroying their heritage, emotionally sterilizing them, and packaging them up as assets to be traded with private equity? It's no surprise, is it? It really is no surprise. That is why we now have the full house coordinated coercion, the FCA, inventing narrative that they acted expediently with wealth tech, remove all the. We won't discuss anything about what we did or didn't do before April 2023. We'll just invent this narrative like we will with Woodford. Doesn't matter that we were kept fully informed, fully transparent process right the way up until the worst case scenario for clients. Scheme of arrangement was the best thing we could do for clients. Actually, it was a function of the fact that you couldn't sue Link because Link would just say to you, actually, we kept you informed throughout. So, they just invent narrative. Here we've got the invention of narrative to package up vulnerable people and trade them right the way into the heart of the financial system. Your savings will be exposed to this disgraceful trade, as we will show. Now, have a happy Christmas. I'm going to be spending some of my time working for Christmas, working towards putting this material together with my colleagues. But I do wish you a happy Christmas. Take care. Bye.